Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In today's video we're going to look at the NRL SuperCoach stock market for round 13, which is the first buy round of the season. Um, and so just I guess something a little bit different this week looking at the stock market, because obviously 7 teams are on the buy, so we've only got a limited number of players to pick from. Um, Plus, also, it's been a super crazy week. I'm trying to record this in my lunch break at work or from work today, working from home, which is nice, but busy day with that. So, for that reason, we've gone for the stock market video in the style of the buy, keep, sell, avoid. So, if you're a fan of Premier League fantasy, so English soccer, you might be aware of FPL Mate YouTube channel. He does the buy, keep, sell, avoid videos, or buy, sell. I don't know what he calls them, to be honest. I forget the order. Um, but essentially, they roughly categorises a few players, or usually picks two from each category in each of these categories. So buy, players that you should have in your team that don't have a buy this week. Buy them, get them in if you haven't got them. Keep the players that are should be in your team, but obviously aren't playing this week because of the buy or origin. Um, Call up. Sorry, got itchy nose. Avoids the ones that don't have a buy this week, but probably keep them out of your team. And sells are the ones that are on a buy or origin, so you can trade them out to bring other players in. So hopefully it'll make a bit more sense as we go through. But we'll just go through each position. So with the hookers, so I guess in the buy category, I've got Damien Cook at the top of that list. Um, you know, Thanks to the Freddie, he's only picked one hooker for New South Wales, that being Appy Coruscant. So it means we've got Damien Cook through the buys, which is actually really nice. If you knew that beforehand, probably would have been on the buy train a lot earlier for him. Um, but I did go Robson, so you can see there I've got him as a buy as well. I think he's a perfectly good option. We've also got Marshall King as that third keeper option. I've been talking him up pretty big in the other stock market videos, and just the way things worked out. Um, at the time, I needed to upgrade hooker. He was on the buy, so it didn't quite work out for me. But as a cheaper option, I think Cody Nikorima named to play at fullback this week, which is very interesting. I guess what it does as well is it does allow Milford to come into the starting team, which means there's no sort of risk of Nikorima getting benched potentially during the game, and having Tafare as the I guess the bench replacement in the back line sort of only goes to strengthen that position. So in terms of the sells, or actually I'll just go around clockwise, I suppose. So the keeps. So if you've got Harry Grant, keep him. He is playing Origin, but he's number one hooker for a reason. And if you've got Reed Marnie, I'd keep him too. Obviously on the bye this week, had a shocker last week in terms of his score, um, but he offers that really great buy coverage after this round. So yeah, if you can hang on to him, I'd recommend it. On the sells, we've got the Cheese at the top, injured for I think 7 weeks. So if you've got him, obviously he has to go. Sonny Luke, if you're still hanging on to him, get rid of him. Go to Nikorima, even though it is a bit of an upgrade. I think yeah, you sort of need to really look at getting two gun hookers. I think Nikorima is probably that one exception to the rule at the moment. And if you do have Appy, I think you got to get rid of him. So he did score well last week, obviously, in that massive win the Tigers had. Um, but he will play Origin, which means he's not much use for you in round 16 or 19 when the Tigers do play. So for that reason, I've got him as a sell. And on the avoids list, I've got Wade Egan. So looks like he's starting off the bench. He gets named at 9 and then starts, and Freddie Lussick starts. Um, well, I think I just said that wrong, but like I said, I am rushing through it a bit, and it's crazy. So there's a bit going on. But yeah, if you got Egan, get rid of him. If you haven't, he's probably not an option. You've got three good options there. And Josh Hodgson, obviously, if you're trying to load up on Parramatta players because of their awesome buy schedule, hooker is not the position for that. So into the front row, and there's quite a few good options this week, as you can see. Joey Tarpany, Tohu, Fanua Blake. If you haven't got them, they're buys, absolutely. They're, almost season-long keepers. Joe Hoffenhengawa is an interesting one, making the move to Parramatta this week, and with their nice buy schedule, um, plus a couple of their injuries, he's going to get some really good minutes in that forward pack. So, bit of a pot option if you're looking in that sort of category. And if you're looking for a cheap option this week, Shaq Mitchell's back for South. So, I guess he was one of the better, cheaper options in the start of the season. Since then, we've had a couple come along, like Edwards in particular, but also Wiremu Greg's proved to be pretty decent. So, yeah, if you are desperate for one, go with Shaq. If you got a little bit more money, you could go up to Greg or Grant. I should have mentioned as well, I didn't do this earlier, but these players that I'm picking are based off sort of the top 10 to 20 in terms of overall teams that own these players. So, the most popular picked players. That's why there's not too many pot options in here. Yeah, I just thought if we look at those ones, we'll see who we should have, who we keep, who we who we sell, who we avoid. So on the keep list, Payne Haas, number one front rower. That's a pretty easy option. Tino, I think, is a hold. He's a gun keeper sort of category player. Harry Edwards, if you've got hold, again, he's one of those players that's going to be very useful after this week for buy coverage, and obviously he scores well for his price. And Tom Gilbert as well, I've got as a hold. He was playing Origin, which sort of, out of those four, Gilbert's the one that's most likely to shift to the sell list. But I think the dual position was probably just what saved him in the end. So on the sell list, I've got Stefano. He's in the extended bench for the Tigers, so I don't. Oh, sorry, for New South Wales. So I don't quite know if they'll release a player, or if they'll keep the full 19 in the squad until match day. Um, Plus, also these mid-price range front rowers. You can go up or you can go down. There's a couple options either way. So for that reason as well, Christian Welsh, he's a sell. If you've still got Franklin Pele, get out of him. Surprising number of people do. I know there's not a bottom dollar option this week. You might have to go to a shack or something like that. And Ruben Cotter, I've got him as a sell just because, you could. Him and Gilbert were pretty contentious, so I'll sort of split them 50-50. But yeah, if you kept or you sold, I think you'd be okay. And so the one avoid I've got there is Sean Keppie. Now like they've got Aaron Woods there in the front row rotation. He's not going to get a big uptick in minutes, even if Jake Trbojevic is out for a while with his injury. So for that reason, he was the one that was in the most popular list that sort of fit the avoid category. Onto the second rowers. So the top of the sort of buy list this week is Josh Schuster. Um, yeah, scored a ton on the weekend. That was always the hope that he could do something like that and make us a lot of money. Might be a bit too late to get on, but yeah, I guess he's in the team and he's playing this week. So if you can, make sure you've got him. Jackson Ford. So this is the reason why we've held him so long. Is for this round 13 buy. After that, you can make a choice whether to upgrade or whatnot. I've pretty much ended up with the whole Parramatta back row. So Jermaine Hopgood is obviously the keeper option that you bring in and you hold for the season. I really like the value of Cardi now that Madison is out for a while too. But that also provides opportunity for Duru. So as a good cheaper option, he's guaranteed a bit of game time. But you'd assume that Cardi's going to be the one that holds the position longer term. So that's why he's a bit higher on the list. And then I guess, the cheap option is Fainu from Manly. I think it's only his second game, but he is bottom dollar. He did score pretty well last week, played some decent minutes. And with injuries to Tuolangi and Ben Travojevic, it looks like the position could be his even after, um, buy rounds and origin and all that sort of stuff. So on to the holds. So I've got Preston as a hold. Talked about the Bulldogs players enough. You know the drill. Good buy coverage after this week. Fafita, number one, second rower. He's a hold. Pat Carrigan, I've got as a hold. I know I've been a bit, on the fence about keeping him or cutting him, but um, yeah, he is a valid option and very popular, so I'd hold. And Teague Wilton, surprisingly, was in this list too. I think he was over 10% owned, which surprised me when I looked at it. But yeah, same reason as Preston. The Sharks have that awesome buy coverage, 16 and 19. So hold Wilton if you've got him. Onto the sells. So Cam Murray's at the top of the list. I've been saying to sell for a while. This is why. He's playing Origin. He missed 13 and 19. Um, so I'm pretty sure this is South's first buy too. So he's still got two other buy rounds that he'll miss out on going forward. Zach Hosking, sell. There's plenty of options here that you can replace with Hosking. Get points this week, plus probably more so in the future. And Eli Katoa, so a bit of a controversial sell, but Melbourne's buy coverage isn't great. So I think if you swapped him for say Cartwright or something, it could have a similar effect. So the avoids, I've got Ryan Madison at the top of this list, obviously out injured for a few weeks. Ben Travojevic, same deal. And Jack Gajeski. So now that Luciano Leilua is back, Gajeski's back to the bench. Probably not going to get a great deal of minutes. So our master plan to hold him through the first buy round as a cheap option has sort of evaporated at the wrong time for us. So I've just lumped the halves together because I guess when you look at the holds, that's like no big surprise there. But the buys, you'll notice they're all 5/8. So we've got Dylan Brown is the top option there. Parramatta have the supreme buy coverage. Dylan Brown's going well. Cody Walker, um, especially when you see the likes of Damien Cook not getting picked for Origin. There was talk maybe Walker might have forced his way into the side on the back of the form of South Sydney recently. Campbell Graham, interestingly enough, not fit enough for Origin, but named for South. I'm not sure what's going on there. But yeah, if you can get Cody Walker in, that's a really good shout, I think. And then a couple of cheap options. You've got Luke Metcalf from the Warriors and Kyle Labert from the Cowboys. So Metcalf is playing 5/8, and early in preseason he was a big shout for like a cheap 5/8 option. So if you're desperate for a 5/8 this week that's cheap, I'd get on him. Um, got Labut as well. He does offer a bit of flexibility with halfback and 5/8. So if you need a cheap halfback, for whatever reason, you could go Labut. He's playing in the centres for the Cowboys, which is interesting, but that's his position in Supercoach. But as I said, I don't know why you'd want a cheap halfback because you can see on the hold list, hold Nico, hold Nathan Cleary. It's pretty simple. Two best players in Supercoach in the halfback position, set and forget. Cam Munster's a hold if you've got him. I could see an argument for trading for whichever one of Brown or Walker you don't have, but if you can get 13 in your other positions this week, you could easily hold Munster. Matt Burton, he's been in really good form. So if you've got him, I'd suggest holding him. And then again, he'll offer that nice buy coverage after this week. On the sell list, I've got Tanner Boyd from the Titans. Although he is half end hooker, so he could have featured either spot, but I really needed someone in the halves that I could suggest selling. And Joey Mane is the other one. So probably I guess when you get to my team preview that's coming up later today, you'll say why haven't I traded Manu out if I'm saying trade here. Um, Honestly, it's just throwing a suggestion out there. Like I said, I can see a lot of teams would have Nico and Cleary there holds. Your 5/8s, you're hopefully starting to look at getting two of the three of Brown, Walker, Munster. You might have a Katoa, you might have a Schuster in that second spot, like I do. You might have a Burton even. So you can see they're all sort of decent options. In saying that, I've got Qatar as an avoid, um, which again might be a bit controversial. Um, but the fact, like I said before, with Cody Nikorima, is Milford is starting. So part of the reason why he scored so bad last week was because he got rested after 50 minutes. So he'll play 80 minutes this week. Fingers crossed that nothing bad happens. But in saying that, if you can upgrade to one of the guns, or you can do what I'm going to probably do and move Schuster in there for this week. You could definitely look at doing that. Moses, I'd avoid just because you have to play him at halfback mostly, so it means you're missing out on a Nico or a Cleary, and just a bit inconsistent. He could do well this week. He could also get a 20. And then is it even worth bringing him in for that? DC is absolutely a void. Plays for Queensland, so there's no point worrying about him. How long have time? Oh, yeah, heaps. So onto the centre wing position. As always, the most sort of names to toss up and discuss here. So in terms of buys, I've got Ruben Garrick at the top of the list. Goal kicking for Manly, a decent footy team. Isn't that named at fullback? We sort of hoped he'd play at fullback, but Kaya Weeks got the job, which is, I guess, what we expected, but we hoped it was Garrick. But yeah, he's a keeper, so we're happy to bring him in. Jermaine Osako as well, so another gun that kicks goals. Thought might play fullback this week, but they have named Nikorima at fullback, so interesting how they're trying to keep these sort of back row, or sorry, not back row, centre wings, like three quarters. That's the word I was looking for. They're three-quarter line players. They're trying to keep them in their positions, and the fullback's becoming more of an out and out spine player. Um, so I mean, Ozako's still a great pick. Um, Good chance coming into my team this week too. Again, just to preview what's coming next. Jared Croker. So if you haven't got him, I don't know if you'd buy him just for this week. But if you've got him, he's a great option to have in the team. CNK is another one. His scoring hasn't quite been there, but his work rate is. So, yeah, absolutely buy him in. Greg Marzu. So we know what his tackle breaking abilities are. So if you want to bring him in, no problems there. And then the cheap option Derby from Derby or Derby, I don't know how to say it, maybe Derby from the Cowboys playing on the wing. So really nice sort of guess enough option in the sense that he'll play this week. He'll probably play around 16 as well, you'd imagine, unless the Queenslanders decide to make bulk changes to their side. And then you probably never see him again. So if you want to keep him as your centre wing 7, after that, it could be good. Use the money elsewhere. Uh, in terms of the holds, I've got Billy Smith as a hold because of his low break even. Alamotti, low break even, plus good buy coverage. Taruva, low break even. So again, these are just the popular ones. You know, um, that's why they're included. Brian Toe, he's a keeper, so we hold him. Peachy, low break even, dual position, hold him. In terms of the sells, I've got the hammer on the sell list just because he is playing Origin, which means he misses this week. He misses round 19 as well when the Dolphins were scheduled to play. Um, and yeah, there's plenty of options in the centre wing. So unless you've got them as an out and out keeper, I think you can sell them. Val Holmes I've got on the sell list for the same reason. Um, Cowboys won't play 13 or 16, so missing out on those extra games there. Khan Pereira and Warbrick, you can sell them. Khan Pereira wasn't even in the team last week, so if you've still got them, trade them on. And then the avoid, so Lockie Miller at the top of this list is named on the bench for the Knights this week, so they've rotated that spine, and he's the one that's rotated onto the bench. So if you got him, you could hold on to him because you don't really know how they're going to use him. But yeah, I was going to trade him in originally. No chance of that now, unfortunately. As much as I did rate him and really wanted to bring him in, doesn't look like I'm going to have that chance. I've got Tafari on the list as well, so Big Val from the Dolphins. He's named on the bench. Um, there is an argument to actually bring him in this week, given he's so cheap and he's got a massive score in his rolling average. That would only last for one price rise, though. So I'm more inclined to hold this week, see how he goes off the bench, if there's an injury where he could slot back in, and then bring him in. But, if you don't like the look of Derby and you want a cheap centre wing option, Tafari is probably not the worst. Campbell Graham, I've got on the avoid list just because I'm not sure what's going on with this injury. I mean, turning down the chance to debut for New South Wales, but then turning out for your club on the weekend is an interesting call. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, to be honest. So that's why I've got him on the avoid. Obviously, yeah, if it comes to light that there's something else going on, maybe he's a buy, but not for me. And speaking of not for me, I've got Alex Johnston on the list too. I talked about this a lot in the past, but too reliant on scoring tries. Admittedly, Souths are probably looking a bit better than what we thought they would be during Origin, with Damien Cook still in the side and the like. But yeah, I think there's too many other good options that I don't need to worry about him. And so onto the fullbacks, and so top of the buy list this week, I've got Kalen Ponga. Obviously, nice big score last week, which means he's got nice juicy break even, and is named to play at fullback this week, which I guess is his preferred position in a sense. Um, and yeah, at his cheap price, it could be a good option. Drinkwater, I've got as well as a buy. Obviously, the nice coverage with this week and round 16 is an advantage there for Drinkwater. So if you're looking at some coverage in the fullback positions there, I think your two best options. Um, Holds, I've got Turbo as a hold, um, but I actually forgot to change this. um, yeah, so after talking to a mate of mine a couple of days ago, and we were, tossing up ideas, and when you think about it, Turbo's out this week playing Origin. He's going to be out next week with the bye. He's going to play round 15, admittedly, but then he's also got the bye around 16. So the problem is with that, you could sell and wait till after round 16 to get him back in. The problem with that is he does have a massive break even. But when I was discussing it with my mate, the reality is fullback is one of those positions where you can get a lot of points. And I've already had someone like Dream Buller sitting in one of my fullback spots taken up. Admittedly, he scored really well on the weekend, but he has been taking up a spot from a potential other keeper, which I was totally comfortable with. But I can't sort of have fullbacks not playing for multiple weeks, um, particularly when we're trying to make up rank overall. So Turbo is actually in the sell category for me. But definitely keep Buller. He'll have that awesome buy coverage after this week, being playing for the Tigers. I think you got to keep Teddy if you've got him. Um, Obviously, not as impacted as by the buys, because the Roosters will play 16, but that doesn't matter. And they've already had a buy, so that would mean that Teddy's not really missing out on any extra games. So if you've got him, you can hold him. If you've got Edwards, hold Edwards. The buy coverage isn't great, but you bought him in because you like him. And Will Kennedy, sort of in the same category as Buller, will have that nice buy coverage after this week. So hold on to him. So the sells, I did have Turbo, but also put Latrell in there, mostly because I thought I needed someone initially, but didn't score so well on the weekend. So it does have a massive break even. Um, and won't play this week, won't play around 19 when South play. So a couple of buys coming up might be a good time to get out of him. And on the avoid list, I've got Gutho, a bit like Mitchell Moses. It's a bit of a roller coaster with him. so I'd prefer to stay off. And Tristan Sailor playing fullback this week for the Broncos. That'll probably be his only game for the season, unless there's injuries and the like. So I'd avoid him for that reason. So that's the shortened version this week of the stock market video. Feel free to comment if you've got any thoughts on, you know, any of those players that I've listed, or any players that you think should have been listed and I forgot. Feel free to comment on the format as well, the buy, keep, sell, avoid style. Like I said, I do really like it for the Premier League videos. I usually just skip to the bit at the end where he shows this graphic with the table and the players. Just sometimes I don't have a lot of time to watch the video, but it is really good to get that insight of, oh, this player should be in my team but isn't, or should be out of my team and I've got them, I need to sell them, that sort of thing. And if you are enjoying all of the content, please subscribe to the channel and all that other good stuff. Like all the videos, watch all the other videos. As I said, preview video will be coming out later this afternoon. And other than that, I'll catch you in the next one.